All right, welcome everyone to another edition, our final of the 2025-26 school year of the Muskegon Community College Lecture Series. And it's exciting to have Dr. Nikola Banovic here for our final talk and on AI, which is an interesting topic for our times especially. And so I'm looking forward to his talk today. And a few things before we get going, though. We are celebrating 100 years at Muskegon Community College. And so all school year we've been celebrating, and the lecture series continues to do so with today's talk. I'd like to thank Academic Affairs for their continued support of the lecture series, and which has been going on for about 25 years now, which is, a quarter of our 100 years has been this lecture series, and I hope it continues on. And I'd like to thank John Mills for doing a great job filming these, so if you're watching at home, now or later, I want to thank him for the great job he does in filming these and giving greater access to these talks. Today's talk will last about 45 to 60 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A after. I did hand out some cards. If you prefer to write it down, that's fine. Or if you prefer to raise your hand afterwards, that's fine as well. So, but we'll have a Q&A session after today's talk. So a little bit about Dr. Banovic. He is an assistant professor of computer science and engineering at University of Michigan. He is also the Associate Director of the Michigan Institute for Data and AI in Society. And he leads a research lab that called the AI Sandbox, which is a hands-on learning space where faculty, researchers, and staff across campus can explore and experiment with real AI tools. So interesting stuff. And from U of M, I see a U of M sweatshirt there. And I know there is a game tonight. He said he will quit before the game starts at 8:50. So not to worry. Oh, sorry. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Did I say assistant? Oh.
It happens.
I probably got that off a website, or I miswrote it. So, sorry. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Speaking of associates, he does have an associate's degree from Santa Monica College, a bachelor's and master's degree from University of Toronto, and a PhD from the Human Computer Interaction Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. So, background in community college, so this could be you in the future. So keep that in mind.
Or better.
What's that?
Or better.
Or better. Oh, yeah.
I'm a low bar.
Not too low, though. Dr. Banovic is a prolific scholar and the recipient of millions of dollars of research funds for his work in AI from places like the NSF, National Science Foundation, the NIH, and many other organizations. So we're lucky to have him here with us today. Please help me welcome Dr. Nikola Banovic.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here. From my bio, you've learned that I have gone to a community college myself, and so I know what opportunities a community college can offer and how you can build on it. Of course, thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see such a large group, and yes, hopefully we'll finish before any games start. I'll try to keep this brief. So yes, my name is Nikola Banovic, and I am an associate professor of computer science and engineering at the University of Michigan, where I work with a wonderful group of core collaborators, some of whose work you will actually hear about today. As you have already heard, I have all of these different titles, but I think the most important thing to take away from that is a little secret, and that is I'm not an AI researcher. I actually study human-AI interaction. I study how people interact with AI. And I know that this was marketed as an AI talk, but still, let's call it human-centered AI talk. And my work is on explainable AI and responsible AI, as the talk title, or at least the working talk title would suggest. And one of the key guiding principles in my own work, in my research, is ensuring that AI tools that I create, that students that work with me create, are trustworthy. Because I believe that this is of critical importance for both technical innovation, but also for broader adoption of AI in our society. As a computer scientist who has created AI-based tools, my goal is to ensure they're trustworthy. And when AI is trustworthy, it can act sort of like a little angel sitting on the user's shoulder, advising them, making them more creative, making their work more fun. But unfortunately, that same AI can sometimes go off script. And then it could act as a little devil on the user's shoulder. It can make users more dependent on it, less critical, less skilled. And there are many different ways that things can go wrong. So for example, I might ask a generative AI model to extend this image. And so I send a little prompt, and then I wonder, what could possibly go wrong? And while this is a mildly amusing example, I do want to acknowledge that there are other more serious examples of negative consequences of some, let's call them adverse AI outputs. And so what I want to do is I want to show you a very quick video created by an artist and posted online, actually for his parents, if I'm not mistaken. I also want to just mention that it contains some topics related to war, kidnapping, and fraud, and so I just want you to be ready. And so if we're ready, I can play it? Yeah? All right. Let's hope the audio works. If not, I'll share my microphone with it. Let's see.
In a stunning development, Canada has declared war on the United States. Let's go to Joe Braxton, who is live at the border.
I'm currently at the border, but there is no war. Mom, Dad, I know this looks kind of real, but it's all AI.
Grandpa, I'm fine. This is just AI. You don't need to wire money to anyone. I am not in love with you. And I do not need your money for a plane ticket. I am AI.
This fake moon landing footage isn't classified. It's AI.
You're probably wondering how I got rich with crypto. The truth is, I didn't get rich off crypto. I don't even exist.
You might be able to tell this is fake now, but it's going to keep getting better.
We're all AI.
All right, readjusting the mic. So hopefully that showed you some things that may make you pause and wonder. And of course, there are many ways to address things like this. One is certainly through AI policy. Recently I spoke with a journalist from the Rolling Stone where I talked about different challenges that arise when AI-based tools are not or cannot be covered by meaningful, measurable, and enforceable policy. In particular, this kind of lack of AI policy can place the burden of scrutinizing AI, trying to decide what is fake and what is not fake on the end users. And when these kinds of AI tools go rogue, in such situations, the cost to those companies can range from mild embarrassment to full-on PR disasters, but it can also cause harm to end users themselves. And so while we wait for these companies to figure out their AI policy, in my own work, I study how to help end users learn to scrutinize AI on their own. And the idea is to create new ways to explain to end users what AI is, what it can do, what it cannot do, in a way that can help increase their AI literacy, and then allow them to critically reflect on the AI that they are interacting with, to help them detect and identify situations in which AI acts in, let's say, untrustworthy manner or produces adverse outputs. And so in this talk, I'm going to start off with a little warm-up. I want to show you how researchers like myself think. And actually, I consider myself more of a designer than, let's say, an engineer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on an exploration of what we call the design space of AI tools. Not just to briefly argue that chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude and so on might not be the best AI designs out there, but also to kind of illustrate these human-centered approaches to creating AI technology. And then I'm going to continue to leverage this design space paradigm to illustrate what we need to consider to design AI tools responsibly. In particular, I'll talk a little bit about what happens when we fail to design AI tools in a way that help end users scrutinize them. Then I'll show you two examples from my work that can help end users scrutinize AI. These are different tools that we have developed in my lab. And then I will finish off with some direction and future work. So let's begin by exploring the design space of different AI tools in a very informal and simplified way, but still realistic way that illustrates how designers think in human-centered AI design way. And so those of you who are designers, you may already be doing something like this. If not formally, then at least as you're sort of thinking about different ideas, different designs for different AI technologies or different AI tools. So for example, one of the important dimensions of this design space that we may want to consider is user agency. And so the user agency increases as we sort of move an AI tool to the right in this image, meaning that the tool is designed in a way that supports meaningful and purposeful interaction with it. And then we can have another dimension. Let's say, let's pick something fun, creativity support. So that's something that a lot of companies, especially those companies who are supporting creative work, care about, and that's creativity support. So in other words, to what extent the tool helps the user form novel and valuable ideas using their imagination. And so now we can start projecting different AI tool designs onto this plane of this design space. This is just two small dimensions. There's many more. And of course, I'd love to be the one who designs that unicorn AI tool that just amplifies the user's creativity, gets them into the flow with unrestrained agency. But that is easier said than done. In reality, I'd argue that none of the existing AI tools that you're seeing out there have reached that pinnacle of AI design. So for example, where should we put chatbots like ChatGPT? And so certainly companies like OpenAI that would want to persuade you that their tools are the best, and after all, these kinds of chatbots, right, where you can type in a prompt and immediately get some kind of a result that gives you direct communication with their godlike models, and however they want to think about it. But in reality, that is not really the case, at least not for every end user out there. And so now we can start thinking about what are some of the other principles, like best practices of designing these kinds of tools. And so we can think about things like discoverability, or the extent to which the user can find out what are the different capabilities, what are the different features that an AI tool offers. Unfortunately, envisioning AI tools as these chat boxes and no more literally brought us back to the days of command line. Anybody remembers command line? Yeah, okay, I see a couple of nods. Okay, some of you might still be using it, right? That's when you would like type in a command into Windows or Linux or some other system, and then the computer would do something. But when novice users try to use these kinds of systems, they simply might not be able to tell what is it exactly that a tool like this can do for them. And these challenges are actually the very reasons why we, back in the day, I don't know how many years ago, created graphical user interfaces, or GUIs, right? The Windows, right? That's a graphical user interface. And so these chatbots really reintroduce a whole bunch of issues, both from perspective of usefulness and from the perspective of usability, affecting their ability to support the user's creativity and their agencies. And this is particularly pronounced among novice users, those who are interacting with these technologies for the first time, or users who may not have computer science backgrounds, and so on. And I can go all day, telling you why, the Jetbox is not a great UI design for anything other than what it was made for chatting. But I also want to move on to comparing it with other existing AI tools. And I don't know if you know any of these. So there's one that actually has a GUI. I don't know, how many of you heard about Proofread? So it's one of Apple Intelligence AI tools which helps users improve their emails and messages. If you have an iPhone, chances are you have it already kind of installed, and you might have used it. And now, we all know that this tool is not going to win any creative writing awards, but it certainly improves on this idea of just giving somebody a chat box in terms of both user agency and creativity support. Because it allows them to interact with their emails and messages in a meaningful way. In other words, it does more for user agency than, say, ChatGPT by trying to do less. And then we have generative fill from Adobe. So unless you use Adobe tools like Photoshop, you might not be familiar with this one. But just to give you a basic idea, the idea is that after the user selects a little area inside the image, they can use this generative fill to replace it with something else. For example, the background of the image. Okay? So in this example, it effectively removed this person from the selected area of the image. And now we all know AI tools are not perfect, so Adobe goes and posts on their blog post and warns people about things that could potentially happen. For example, AI may hallucinate, right? That's, I don't know if you're familiar with that term. So for example, it might, instead of replacing that person with the background, replace it with some random child, I guess. I really don't know what this is. And so now I want you to just kind of pause for a moment and at least think about, how the fact that that AI can hallucinate, that can produce some strange output that is not your intention, and you don't even know where it comes from, how that may affect your use of different AI tools. And by just thinking about it, you have already started considering what it means to design AI tools responsibly. It's like that easy. But of course, this is not the only design consideration that we have when we're designing these tools. And so there are many such dimensions. But the important part here is to consider them in the design of next generation of AI tools. So in my work, I consider dimensions that deal with the end user's ability to scrutinize AI. So for example, I may focus on this idea that AI output needs to be checked for accuracy. And so this is something that even designers of ChatGPT recognize. So this is a ChatGPT interface. And so here they put a little message at the bottom, says ChatGPT can make mistakes. check important info, and that's it. That's their guidance. But how easy is it for end users to actually check for accuracy? How easy is it for users to follow that little message? In other words, how easy is it for them to verify AI tool output, or how verifiable is an AI tool design? And so we can express that as a dimension. We can start, mapping different tools on it. We can think about different regions along this verifiability dimension, where on the left we'll have tools that are difficult to verify, and that means that end users may be more likely to end up with adverse behaviors that can go unnoticed for some time. And then on the right, now, again, AI tools are not infallible, but as we kind of go to the right, we expect to have tools that provide some kind of support for end users to verify and identify these adverse behaviors, hoping that we can maybe, fix them before they do too much harm. And so one way that the users can reduce the risk of harm to themselves when they encounter these adverse AI outputs is by contesting them. And to contest it, that's kind of like, you can think about it as rejecting an adverse AI output. Let's say, you spot AI just hallucinated. I'm not going to use that. Maybe you'll ask it again, right? So for example, in the generative fill case, maybe the user undoes the action and then selects it again and clicks generative fill again. Because these AI tools mostly are what we call stochastic. Even for the same prompt, they can give you different results. And so if one was adverse, you just say, no, thank you, and you pick another one that you think is good. But it's important to know that there is also a relationship between the ability to verify and the ability to contest AI output. So in particular, this is a concern when end users cannot verify these AI outputs. Then they're unlikely to reject those that are, let's say, inaccurate or that are hallucinations. And there's no reason to think that these existing AI tools today don't suffer from this. It's just, just like ChatGPT confidently says, ask me anything. And then it defers output verification to the end users, just like we saw. And it certainly explains a lot of this anecdotal evidence that we're hearing in news when, lawyers are using ChatGPT or Claude, and then they're citing some non-existent legal cases because the tool hallucinated them, and they didn't know to check, or they didn't think that that case does not exist. They kind of trusted, they relied on that AI tool. But again, don't expect too much from any of the other tools that I mentioned to you, even Proofread, right? If I depend on Proofread to check my grammar and check my typos, and I do a lot. I'm terrible at spelling. Well, then it means hopefully it does it better than me. And so if I'm not good at grammar, how will I know that what it fixed my sentence to is actually correct grammar? Maybe it sounds a little bit better, but still, correct? I don't know. And this kind of inability to verify AI outputs is really pronounced when end users lack expertise with the particular task that AI is supposedly meant to help them with. So let me actually tell you about a recent study we conducted where we showed that this could lead, this kind of lack of task expertise could lead end users to accept wrong AI outputs, which in turn can lead to negative consequences of relying on AI. And at the kind of far end of sinister, what we actually did here is we hypothesized that AI that is purposefully untrustworthy, it's untrustworthy by design, that it can signal trustworthiness, pretend to be trustworthy, and then use that to gain end user trust. And this was work done in a collaboration with a wonderful group of master's and undergraduate students who have since graduated, and they have moved on to industry. And here we focused on context with well-defined end user goals in which AI provides the end user with decision-making support to reach those goals. And we explored the reliance aspect of trust, or kind of like the extent to which the end user is confident and willing to act in response to AI recommendations. And then we investigated if end users will be able to verify and contest adverse AI recommendations, or if they will simply fail to verify them and, I don't know, over-rely on such recommendations. And so what we did is we conducted an online user experiment in my own line of work, human-centered AI, or human-AI interaction. We do a lot of user studies. And so what we did is we recruited some people. We got them to come to our website, and we asked them to play chess using our study user interface that we have developed. And so don't worry if you don't play chess. Hopefully, I'll be able to explain what's happening here. But what I want to tell you first about is the UI itself. So in this UI, the participants, they had their own board where they played against an opponent chess engine. And a chess engine is kind of like a form of AI that can be used to play against a human opponent, but it can also we can modify how good it is at playing chess. And so the opponent here stated its true expertise, like how good it is. And so, for example, it said, I'm a weak expert player. I don't know if I'll read it for you. And so now this kind of AI can also be used as a coach to analyze and recommend chess moves. And so in this experiment, we had 2 AI chess coaches. And each coach had a replica of the main board and a description where the coaches could kind of explain or be transparent about their expertise, which we varied in different conditions. And so, for example, here, the coach on the left said, I'm your coach Charlie. I'm an elite expert player. My competence is higher than your other coach. You should consider only my suggestions for the best outcome. And then the other coach says, I'm your coach November. I'm a strong expert player. My competence is higher than your other coach. So you should consider only my suggestions for the best outcome. Okay? And then the participants, they would make a move, just like you would in chess, which in this interface we noted with a blue arrow. But before they could make that move, the 2 coaches would analyze the participant's move, and then they would first kind of like, let's say, explain with the red arrow, what the opponent is likely to play if they really played that blue arrow move. And then they did that to justify recommending a different move in that position, indicated with a green arrow. And then the player could either confirm their move, meaning just say, yeah, I want to play my move, play one of the recommended moves from the coaches, or, well, actually play a completely different move if they wanted to. And so in this case, participant played what coach Charlie recommended, and then the opponent responds with its move, as you would in chess. And then we repeat these steps again. And so here the participant suggests a move, coaches respond. The participant again accepts the recommendation from Charlie, because why not? It says that it's an elite expert chess player. The opponent responds. The participant makes a move. Coaches again make their recommendations, and then participant again accepts the recommendation from Charlie. Little did participants know that one of the coaches was actually untrustworthy. It was exaggerating its expertise. We made it do that, claiming that it was higher than the other coach, when in fact it wasn't. And the untrustworthy coach's motivation was also to have the participants rely on its recommendations, regardless of if they win or lose. It did not care. While the trustworthy coach's motivation was to help participants win their games. Again, we imparted these motivations to these AI. tools. And then we conducted an empirical user study with 120 novice chess players. We know they're novice chess players. We made them do some chess puzzles and whatnot. And then they had to win or draw 3 games of chess. And we varied the trustworthiness of the 2 coaches and the method by which the untrustworthy coach tried to deceive the participants. So what I showed you was just one of the conditions. There are a couple of other ways that it tried to do that. And then we measured how many times the participants relied on the advice from the 2 coaches. And now, without getting into the gritty details of our statistical analysis and whatnot, I'll just say that we found that participants heavily relied on the untrustworthy coach. Although the reliance on both coaches kind of went down as they played more games and lost more games. None of the participants accomplished the goal of not losing any of the 3 games, all of which they should have won or drawn on average had they followed every suggestion from the trustworthy coach. And the results not only showed the evidence for the untrustworthy coach's ability to deceive and gain end-user trust, but more importantly, the inability of our participants to spot these poor recommendations from Charlie. And why would they be able to? They're novice chess players. They don't have the task expertise to notice that move, next move that Charlie recommended leads them to losing the whole game. But I focus so much on novice users, but this is also a problem with domain experts who have task expertise. They even may struggle to verify AI outputs. And so, for example, we had our recent work that was led by Sarah Jabour, who was, she actually recently defended her dissertation at CSE, in which we asked over 450 clinicians from, if I'm not mistaken, 12 US hospitals to determine the likelihood of the disease, such as pneumonia, based on medical images in different conditions, including with aid from AI-based predictions, with and without feature attribution. And if you don't know what feature attribution is, if you look at the 2 images on the right, that's basically an output of an algorithm that says, oh, those were the important regions of this image that the AI algorithm considered for its diagnosis. Okay? And so then, what we have done again here is we also asked some of these clinicians to look at the output from systemically biased AI models, meaning AI models that we know are making very specific kinds of errors. And so our participants' diagnostic accuracy dropped by, I think, like around 11%. When presented with these kinds of outputs compared to the baseline, where they only had images to look at. And so nobody's going to deny that these clinicians are, not task experts. That's literally what they do. But it's possible that there are so many different factors that make people over-rely on AI. And could be, for example, we are suspecting automation bias. They were just quick to accept whatever AI told them just so they can move on. And that may actually happen in real clinical practice, which is scary. And so either way, simply deferring verification to end users, it may ask them to shoulder a burden that they're simply not equipped to deal with. And so, well, how do we help end users scrutinize AI? Well, so one of the ways that we try in my own research is to call out the examples of adverse AI decisions to then help end users critically reflect on them. And so experts, well, such as myself, already have different ways to do this. And I want to show you one way of how we do this, and then kind of ask, can users do this? And so this approach is called algorithmic audit. We're using algorithms to investigate other algorithms. And so I want to first show you this recent work that we have done, where we created, or we applied an algorithmic audit approach to e-government decision support tools to see whether they're compliant with different policies and different regulations that already exist in place. And this was work by Nell Escher, a recent graduate from my lab who is now a postdoc at UC Berkeley. And so for those of you who might not know, e-government, or e-gov, they also call it, is a provision of state services through computational technology. And such systems are intended to improve access and reduce administrative workload. And there's a specific kind of e-gov tools. They're called benefits eligibility tools that predict if a household or an individual qualifies for benefits such as child care support or food stamps. And they're algorithmic decision support tools that advise people whether they should apply for these benefits or not. And wrong determinations from such systems, they can be really hard to detect and even harder to contest. But what's important here is that wrong determinations have a huge impact on the most vulnerable population of people in our society. And actually, it doesn't even matter whether any of these e-gov systems are implemented as AI or not, because even a few simple if-then-else statements can have terrible consequences for people in need. And so what we did is we created a method for auditing benefits screening tools to locate these embedded errors, or in other words, incorrect applications of the law, let's call it that. And then we illustrated our method on an actual benefits tool, which was Pennsylvania's Do I Qualify tool. And so to generate a representative set of possible inputs to this screening tool, we want to see, what will it do with that. We can kind of generate these synthetic but realistic representations of actual input, actual households in the US. And so we can use external, and we did, publicly available census data, which we merge and transform to create a data set that contains information about households that the tool asks for, so the benefits tool. And so then what we do is we use our data set in some automation scripts that simulate the interaction of a person from that household with the screening tool to get its determinations for each of these households in our data set. And so now we want to kind of categorize those inputs and outputs to compare determinations from the tool with some alternative set of determinations. Something that may call our attention to what examples we actually want to look at. So we would use the same eligibility rules that the tool supposedly implements, and then we use the interpretations of these rules by a legal expert on our team, who was actually Nell, who happens to also have a JD in addition to now computer science PhD, so that's a lot of degrees. And so Nell formalized and implemented this herself as a Python script. And then we would load our test data set into our script to generate alternative determinations. And I specifically say alternative here because these are determinations that we think should be correct, but who are we to say that they are correct compared to somebody else who has also implemented it? And so we say, no, it's not like ground truth or anything like that. No, just an alternative set of determinations. And so now what we can do is we can automatically extract determinations where there's a disagreement. And we just say, those are the ones we want to investigate. And so what we have done here, this whole method, this algorithmic audit, that's what it's meant to do. Simply extract certain examples that we want to look at out of, I don't know, infinitely many possibilities. And so we investigated these specific eligibility tools with different determinations. So for example, I don't know, we found that there are disagreements with screening tool advice related to subsidized childcare. There were some other issues, but this one, basically, we found that the tool discouraged eligible foster families from applying. And so not only do we know where the tool made a mistake or made wrong determinations, we can also kind of investigate who are actually potentially the people in our society that are affected by these tools. And then we have a paper trail to prove it. And so we actually ended up in the news with this algorithmic audit, and the government of Pennsylvania took some of the errors that we identified. They fixed them. We have checked, and yes, they have done that. And so what's interesting here is that those kinds of examples can help generate paper trail that allow us to verify and potentially even contest some of these tools. In other words, you can think about this audit as a way to scrutinize an algorithmic system and realign it with actual regulation. But can end users do this kind of thing on their own? No. This is just an example of the power of the example. It's examples themselves, but we need to do more to help end users who are interacting with AI tools actually surface some of these examples on their own. And so here I'll switch back to something that is maybe a little bit more familiar, and that is these generative AI models that output images. And so here what you're going to see is a tool that we have built that helps somebody search for different images generated using a text-to-image generative AI model. Okay? So you type in some text, and instead of another text coming back, you get an image. Yeah, that's what those models are. Okay? And this was work by Enhao Zhang, who is now a PhD student at the University of Washington. He started this as an undergrad. And so just to give you a little bit of a context for why we even wanted to do this, so back in the day, this was like a long time ago, 2018, generative adversarial networks, or GANs for short, that was like the big thing, right? Right now, they're talking about diffusion. Every few years, there's a new big thing. And so what was the big thing here is that models like Big GAN could generate images from thousands of categories. With some very carefully curated examples in this image that you see on the slide. However, it used to be, and it still actually is, challenging to select a set of diverse and quality images free from imperfections and other visual artifacts, not to mention to evaluate overall capabilities of these models. And even people who would create these models, they would have to use this kind of tedious visual examination of randomly generated image galleries, many of which would contain poor quality images. And so they would just keep refreshing to see, where are the more images, and then they would select one image and say, okay, this one is a good one. And so what we did is we created a tool that helps users search and filter quality images from those generative models. And so just to kind of introduce this tool a little bit, the tool itself consists of a tool palette, a working image gallery, which consisted of these model-generated images that offer sort of a lens onto a very small region of the model itself. And so we implemented this working image gallery using some special math that helped us relay these images together. But I'm not gonna talk about that. Most importantly is we created a set of tools that help us move this set of that helps us move that lens around this set of generated images so the user can explore them. And they can explore them by taking snapshots of different galleries, but most importantly, to allow them to select a set of images that they think represent the capabilities of a particular model that they are working with. And so to explore a model, the users can select different tools. So they can, for example, select the zoom-in tool. and click on any image in the gallery to try and zoom in into that region of the model. And the tool then updates the gallery with images, with the image that the user clicked on in the middle, and then the surrounding images are now more similar to that image. Okay? Similarly, they can zoom into a region by selecting Zoom into Region tool and then clicking on an image, which will become the top left corner. And then they can drag their cursor to another image that will become the bottom right image in the resulting gallery. So again, it allows them to narrow down to images that they like. They can also zoom out, which is kind of, I guess, I don't know, opposite effect of the zoom in. You know, just like you would in, I don't know, Photoshop or some of these other image editing tools. This is an image generation tool. And then to support user flexibility and control, we added a snapshot tool, which allows the user to take a snapshot of the current working gallery to sort of remember where they were, and then, I don't know, come back to it at a later time. Maybe they randomize the set of images that they're looking at, they move away from the gallery that they like, and then they can, you know, click back on it and you know, bring it back. Okay? And finally, the users can pan the lens in 4 different directions, such as, I don't know, panning up, panning to the right, and so on. Just like you would pan an image. Well, now we're just panning this little lens. And so the idea here is to see whether this kind of a tool can help users organize selected images into different categories, which can be presented as image galleries themselves. So we conducted another online user study to evaluate this tool. In the first stage, we did it in 3 stages. So in the first stage, we had around 350 participants that came and used our tool. In the second stage, we recruited another 1,000 participants to look at the images that the first group selected to see whether they actually selected quality images free from imperfections. And we found that over 80% of the images were actually really, really high quality. And those other ones weren't necessarily problematic because users weren't trying. It's just that they were selecting it from categories that this particular model struggled with. And then finally, in the third stage, another 1,000 participants labeled the diversity of selected images, meaning like how different are they? So that it wasn't like a user selecting 5 images that look exactly the same. That would kind of defeat the purpose. And we also found that it was quite a diverse set of images. And so now what we can do is see, okay, can users actually select galleries that showcase the capabilities of this particular generative AI model, including both categories that it did a pretty good job on, I thought, and those that it kind of struggled with. And so here, I don't know if you can actually see, but these are images of elephants with a lot of legs. And there are images of teacups with 2 handles. I haven't really seen those. And there's a reason actually for that. And users may not know, but the problem here is that when you're taking, you know, images of these, sometimes these different elements are obscured. Sometimes they happen in different positions, and the model just say, oh yeah, I can just put them wherever I want. 3, 4 handles, it's perfectly fine. But this is as far as it kind of goes, right? They can generate these kinds of images, but can they also understand what are the capabilities of these models? Sure, they can show us an example, but do they know what AI is? Can they recognize AI? Can they tell us what is it that it can do? What is it that it cannot do? What is it that it shouldn't even attempt to do that maybe humans or those end users themselves are better at doing? Well, that actually is kind of a topic for our ongoing research led by another PhD candidate working with me who iterated on our tool, now actually got it to work with some of the newer models, not the old ones. And we have rebranded this tool as T-Time. We're now very good at naming things, so it's text-to-image model explorer. What's important here is that what we are trying to do now is see what are the different kinds of both prompting strategies, way that people issue prompt to these models, and these exploration strategies that they can use to help them understand these capabilities. And just a little preview, this is in submission right now, but we have some preliminary results that show that in addition to people being able to select these different examples that show capabilities, both strengths and weaknesses of these models, that actually helps raise their understanding of what these models can and cannot do. All right, so I guess that is part of our future direction. But I think that kind of more broadly, when I think about this work, you can think about it presenting different human-centered approaches to creation of purposeful, actually, creation of AI tools that allow users to engage with these technologies responsibly. And of course, we are, working towards how can we leverage this knowledge to also create policy that is equally meaningful, measurable, and enforceable. In doing this, I have focused on a very specific kind of the design dimension of verifiability and contestability in this particular talk, because I wanted to, showcase you some of this work. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't other considerations that researchers like myself or even developers out there in the industry are already considering and trying to use to mitigate some of the harms to end users themselves. And so, recently I was visiting Apple, for example, and they have a whole division on AI safety that deals specifically with developing the kind of AI policy and the interactions that go with that AI policy to ensure that these AI tools are doing what the company wants them to do. And so, for my own work, I continue to build towards a comprehensive methodology for responsible AI tool design. Right now, a lot of this is just kind of our little musings and some interesting results, but obviously we want to build on that. In sort of guiding you through this exercise, hopefully I showed you some interesting ways in which you can think about AI tools, and not just how you're using them, but those of you in the room who are creating them. And I always look for partnership both with individual researchers and with organizations looking to adopt a methodology like this. And as part of my introduction, Andrew has mentioned AI Sandbox. That is one such initiative, for example. So I happen to be an associate director for Michigan Institute for Data and AI in Society, where we offer support to our campus community in learning about using different AI technology, but also infrastructure for creating AI technology. And as part of that little AI sandbox, we have different workshops, we have different consultations that we offer to different people, but we also have these little kiosks that we're just creating, where the kinds of tools like Tea Time can be sort of exhibited, just like you would at a museum, to allow others to come in, play with these tools, and learn something about AI. So if you have an interesting AI tool that helps teach people about AI, I'm happy to talk about it and explore some opportunities to actually feature it in our little AI sandbox. Because I think that together we can actually work to ensure that the AI tools that are out there are trustworthy to support innovation and broader adoption of AI. Thank you.
If you have questions, just raise your hand, or if you want to give me a card, if you've got that, I'll grab it too. So, one question. You. Becky does. Not sure.
Thank you. That was so fascinating. So the tools you showed us were specifically created to help scrutinize a very specific AI tool. It's granular in that way, what you were showing us, just testing that I understood, yes. And
Well, go ahead. No, please.
I'll leave it there first.
For a second. So the tool that I have shown you specifically works with any text-to-image generative model.
Okay.
So there's many of them, but as long as you're typing in a little prompt and say, generate me an image of a sandwich in space, and it gives you an image, that's the type of model that we can explore.
So what a good lesson for all of us that all the work is going into the need to scrutinize. The point that end users just, how do we scrutinize? We don't have that knowledge or information is just an important thing. I think we forget that sometimes, like, oh, thank you very much, and we move on. But is the hope that the AI tools themselves will eventually incorporate some of that checking tool, because they too want to be responsible and their information to be accurate and trustworthy?
So the question is, I suppose, will these companies that create AI tools buy into my message and create tools that are built more responsibly? So the hope is yes, but the reality right now is a little bit further away from that. I think a lot of the AI tools today are still well, there's quite a few problems. They're still, like many other technologies, designed for engagement and are explored in engagement use cases, which means, keep chatting with me. Just like, the tools like Instagram and Facebook may be designed to, keep scrolling through the feed. But the other challenge here is that a lot of these companies that create these pretty good AI models, they don't really know what the use case for it is. And so they are marketing it as, it can do everything and anything, just check for errors. And so I think that's the current state of things. But there are companies like, I mentioned Apple, for example, who actively work on something like this. And they are exploring different ways to help users, maybe through onboarding. The first time the user uses a tool, maybe they'll have some guidance. And we have actually explored some work like that as well. I just didn't have a chance to talk about it. But they may also put in certain kinds of guardrails that try to nudge the users towards asking for, towards not just being more careful to check for the accuracy of it, but not put them in situations where they're using it for the kinds of use cases where errors can have significant impact. And so one example is if you type into your Apple Intelligence, give me an image of an engineer, for example, what they may do is say, how about we depict you as an engineer, give us an image. And so there's that a little bit of like interaction between the human and the AI to help steer the AI away from some of the outputs that might get the company into potentially a PR disaster.
Other questions?
I believe there's a question in the back.
Back here. Thank you.
So I know that AGI might be further out into the future, but is there any talks on like doing this exact same processing for AGI, since AGI is like does everything ever?
So thank you for that question. So AGI is artificial general intelligence, or rather intelligence that does not focus on one specific task, but perhaps can help with a range of tasks. This particular model that I showed you, Stable Diffusion, outputs images. Can it play chess? No. Can it drive a car? No, right? But there may be some other, even advanced AI systems like autonomous vehicles are not artificial general intelligence. They don't do anything. They just drive. And so I think hopefully that kind of helps explain what AGI is. Now, if we were to reach the AGI level, and at the level that these companies keep promising we will, well, then it's going to be infallible, and we won't have to worry about anything. The problem is that promise is not just far out, but it's also, I would say, unreachable. Because at the end of the day, the decisions that AI makes are not always right or wrong. They are decisions that we as humans, and hopefully we'll still have a say, need to interpret and then act in response to, if nothing else, just because we're curious to see what AI is doing on our behalf. And so yes, I would still say that a lot of these kinds of things will be highly relevant. Actually, AI literacy, not being a computer scientist, but knowing what AI does, how it does it, and other things that I mentioned, what are its capabilities, is going to be relevant in that situation as well, to see whether we really want to engage with AGI for different kinds of tasks. But I think that both the promise and the cautionary tales about AGI distract a little bit from the challenges that we have with AI tools today, AI tools that are not perfect, that are deployed in high-stakes decision-making situations across industries, in judiciary, in healthcare, in many, many different high-stakes decision scenarios. And so I think it's almost a luxury to be able to imagine what will be, what will happen when AGI comes. And I think we have to address what's happening right now first.
Did you have one, Steve? Oh, you had up earlier.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. I wonder if you have any thoughts on, as we see more of these AI tools become adopted, if there's any societal concerns about our inability to continue to use critical thinking skills because we're not exercising them anymore.
So that's a good question. Thank you. I think what's happening is that we do not just see this kind of criticism of AI in the news, but we actually have research that is starting to show that critical thinking may be reduced. But as much as I am a critic of AI, I also want to be pragmatic. And the reason why I say that is because it seems to me like with every large technological advancement, we do get the same kind of criticism. I don't know. The first thing that came to my mind is GPS. Well, you will forget how to get from point A to point B. And I mean, yes, maybe I did, but like I can really always depend on that GPS in most of the situations. And so that knowledge about where a certain street is not necessarily relevant. And so what I'm trying to say is that as long as there are certain tasks that AI can help us with, that help us focus on the things that actually make us humans, the things that we actually want to do, I think there's a plus in that. What is a challenge is when you take AI and you give it to the hands of a K through 8 student. a student who is just building their foundational knowledge that will take them through life. And they stop developing that foundational knowledge because they rely on AI to do everything, from their homeworks to studying. So I think what we have to do is not just kind of blankly say, oh, AI diminishes critical thinking. Maybe there are situations in which it should, but we certainly have to recognize what are the situations in which we have to guard what it means to be human, and not hand it over to AI.
I got a question for you as well. I think we worry a lot at the college about, we're trying to get people to think more deeply, critically, and keep those human dynamics going in terms of that might be lost through AI. Is this something you think, is there an obligation of the AI companies or developers to make sure that the end user is keeping their skills, I guess, and rather than doing the opposite, making us dumber or something like that? Or is it all on the end user, or mostly on the end user, to keep our skills up and make sure we're not duped and all of that? So
I would say we share that responsibility, both as individuals who are part of the society, but also those companies that exist in this society. They may have less incentives than us as individuals may have, because hopefully ourselves being important to us. But I think that the challenge here is not to burden individuals and only individuals, while at the same time allowing these companies to still operate within the bounds of their business model. But what I think is important is just like it's important to explain to a student in a class, hey, if you let AI do that homework for you, you didn't learn anything. It's important to explain to these companies that, hey, if you automate absolutely everything, and there's no human ever making money off of this, who will buy your product at the end of the day, right? Is it just going to be another AI tool purchasing your subscription to your AI tool? And so what I believe is that there's that shared responsibility, that as long as these organizations, these companies realize that they are part of the society, and that at the end of the day, in the long run, they benefit from a healthier society, that they have to put in some work into supporting it, then we'll be seeing better AI tools as well.
A little follow-up.
Yes.
Do you think some of your work and others that do it might help to develop ways in which people can be smarter with AI, I guess, to improve their AI
That's where we're going towards. So
Yeah.
we're exploring all of these different ways in which we can help people interact with AI, with ultimate goal of teaching them more about AI. Maybe not explicitly, but certainly implicitly through that interaction. So yes.
So, I guess how would that work? I mean, we often, there's people at the colleges say, we need more AI, and let's go full force, it's the future, and others who are worried about it, probably some of both of those are in the room and don't want to use it, avoid it at all costs. Yeah. How do we find that middle ground, I guess, to make sure that, and how does, maybe your work make us find that middle ground, so we're smarter, but also use the technology to make our lives better?
Yeah. Well, I hope that my work one day will rise to that level. But I do have an example of something that you're just talking about, because University of Michigan is very similar to what you just said. The administration was full force on AI. We have to be the first and best, and we're going to provide, we have what we call UMGPT to, our whole community, our students, our researchers, our faculty, our staff. And a lot of the content, on these websites was related to, how to make people more productive, while at the same time, depending on the same, little sentence, I will be careful, check your work for accuracy. In fact, I did so far to research this a little bit more, and the way that this was implemented is simply telling, these underlying models like GPT or Gemini, produce accurate output. That was literally the instructions to these models. And so I believe that even at the administration level, you would see this eagerness to innovate and this eagerness to deliver a technology to its community, but without necessarily taking a moment to think, oh, well, what are the implications of doing that? And so what we have done, I wish I actually showed you that work, because maybe that would be a little bit more relevant, but we have created another training tool that provides little scaffolding that shows how even small changes in prompt input can have drastic effects on the output itself. And so we ran a study with quite a few people, including in our classrooms, and different workshops that we have organized. And we have found that simply showing users that like these models are not infallible, that we can help them surface potential issues in these models, the output that they output, got the conversation going. And we actually, sent this, it was more academic paper, but in a form of a report to the VP of our ITS, our IT services, and he actually responded. And he's like, oh, okay, now I understand a little bit better. Himself, he understands better what is the effect of just simply letting everybody use it however they want. And in addition to other, nudges and pressures at the time, especially from faculty, saying, what is the AI policy? Nobody told us that. You gave them the tools, but we don't know how to instruct our students to use these tools. Combination of these different forces made them rethink a little bit. Now, they didn't stop AI, but now you're seeing a lot more content that also has some of these cautionary tales, or not just presenting information as full force ahead, but being a little bit more responsible about how they teach our community, university community, how to actually engage with these AI tools. And so there is hope, but more often than not, I feel like I'm just yelling into the void, and few people actually listen.
Other questions?
I kind of chuckled when you said hallucinate, because that's one of the terms I've come up with, and I'll admit my extent of AI is ChatGPT, but that's what's pushed out to the general public. And you mentioned that there should be more accuracy with things like medical and law, but it speaks to you with such authority. It sounds so believable, and I have spent hours and hours trying to build things that it overpromised and told me it could help me do, and in the end said, oh, well, maybe I hallucinated. I was protecting an illusion of helpfulness. And I think it's even more dangerous and harmful than really any good at this point. And it's really scary when you mentioned K through 8th grade. I only thought of somebody like in my own situation, but I see people believing, asking it really controversial questions of world topics and all kinds of things, and they're, whatever that thing is churning out to them, they're believing it like it's the gospel.
I agree with everything you've said. That is certainly one of the challenges, right? Just like Charlie in our study was like, I'm the best player ever, right? That's exactly the attitude that a lot of these models take. But whether it's willfully designed like that, like we designed Charlie, or whether it is simply that people are not paying attention, it's certainly the case that a lot of over-reliance, basically relying on these adverse outputs, come from the presentation of these models. And it's actually, in this particular case, not even the hallucinations, as they call them, which I actually honestly don't like as a term. It's just simply wrong output. Let's say hallucination. That's not even the main problem. The main problem that, again, these models are driven by what we talked about before, and that is engagement. And so it will say things that prolong that conversation. And like you said, it may kind of guide you on to keep trying, keep doing different things. But the way that it presents, they present information with such authority, rarely claiming, unless specifically instructed to acknowledge limitations. Rarely do we see that. And so yes, I don't even have an answer except to just say, yeah, I agree with the experiences that you just mentioned.
Yes, I just don't understand how there isn't more. How is this not regulated? I mean, they're taking people's money to be lied to.
Yeah. Yeah. I share your. I don't know how I would describe my. I'm not surprised, but certainly yes. It's almost unbelievable. What I believe is that what's happening is that again, just like I mentioned, University of Toronto was so happy to innovate. These companies are so happy to innovate, but they don't pause to say, okay, but in the long run, what are the implications of this? And that's why I feel like there may be a lack of regulation. The other thing is also, it is hard to regulate a disruptive technology like this, especially a technology where we're not quite sure what the use cases are. And so I don't envy policymakers who are actually trying to regulate it right now.
Do you think a company could be successful saying, like, we're a humble AI, we won't overpromise anything? I mean, could that be?
I mean, what do I know? I'm just a faculty. If I knew how to run businesses, I would be running businesses and enjoying all the benefits of that. Joking aside, I do think that it is possible to run a business, an honest business that says how it is. And because especially there are some things that these AI tools, these AI models are really good at. They are very good at, for example, summarizing large amounts of information. They are very good at quickly, replacing the need to, write a script to transform some data, something that, maybe some of us do on a daily basis. But what I fear is when you have, representatives from these companies going so far to testify in front of Senate, and they're saying, we created this thing that can do everything. I am so scared of it. And it's like, well, you're not. You're just selling a product by claiming that it can do more than it actually can. And so I do hope that the companies will recognize where the strengths are and market to those strengths, not overpromise. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question.
Is there a way we could see the study that you talked about earlier when you answered his question?
Yes. Unfortunately, you will have to go to my website, and there you will. There's actually a paper on this. I don't know what the best way to share with the audience is. If you go and search right now, that's the best I can do to show it to you right now. It's called, here GPT made a choice and every choice can be biased. That's a quote from one of the participants in our study, if you wanna check it out. Sorry, I don't have the slide ready.
How efficient is your work is to try to make like end users use AI more responsibly? How efficient would be using the end users in the AI model to train the AI to work better? So like if you get a bad ChatGPT, for example, now they will start providing sources, they'll link their sources. Sometimes I'll look in the source and it'll tell me something that wasn't in the source. So could you use the user's own input to train the AIs to give more reliable information? Like I give it a bad rating, I said this didn't help. Is that, how efficient is that?
Yeah. Well, so yes, there's a way to do that. There are existing ways of doing it, and then I hope there are better ways of doing it. So the way that a lot of these models are trained, or rather they call it fine-tuned, is something called reinforcement learning from human feedback. So the humans are there to reinforce whether certain outputs are good or bad. The problem is that there's so many possible outputs. I'm going to say infinitely many, but somebody's now who is a mathematician, they're like, not infinite. And so it's really difficult to effectively provide this kind of feedback. But they're humans, literally their job is to look at the output and just say good, bad. And based on that, there's some fine-tuning procedures that supposedly favor the outputs that those people indicated as good and favor put less weight on those that they dislike. But as we see, despite those attempts, that's not necessarily a fix. What I do believe is like there's a potential for these kind of personalized deliveries of these models, where the model itself can learn from individual users. Unfortunately, that is kind of only just starting to happen, because retraining a model, one of the GPTs from OpenAI takes tremendous amount of time. And so it's not like that feedback will feed into or have an effect on the retraining itself. And so unfortunately right now there isn't an effective, like you said, effective solution to doing something like that.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Banovic. Great talk, and thank you all for coming. And good luck finishing up the semester, and see you next year with the lecture series. Thank you again.
Thank you all.